So in general, there's 4 forces that we're looking at for people that are swimming. We have a buoyancy force, and that's due to the weight of the fluid that's displaced. It's also known as Archimedes Principle. And so we have an upward force. Just like it's easier for, as a child, I found it much easier to pick up my brother in the water than on the land. And that was due to the buoyancy of the water providing a force on the swimmer upward. And so that's kind of way back before I knew anything about physics. And so we always have that weight also coming down, and that's due to gravity. All right, so those are the 2 vertical forces that are in general here. We do also have a drag force if we have the motion of the swimmer moving to the right. We have a drag force. I'm going to use F sub D for drag, F for force, and D for drag. And on this other forward force provided by the swimmer, I'm going to use a cap F. And generally, it's not straightforward. The force usually applied by a swimmer would be at some angle above the horizontal. And so the reason for that is that it provides a upward force from the swimmer to maintain their level in the water, in the vertical column. And so then we also have that other force forward, and so I call that Fx and Fy. We look at the forward force by the swimmer, which is F of x here, and the force of drag. Now there's 3 types of drag force. One is pressure drag, due to perpendicular surface area to direction of motion. And so imagine, if you will, like a big sheet going through the water like this. There'd be a lot of pressure drag on that. But if you had something nice and streamlined, there wouldn't be so much pressure drag on it. It would be more of a laminar flow. It would be streamlined. And so that would decrease this drag, one of the drag forces. The other, a second drag force would be fluid friction on the skin. It's a thin layer of water that surrounds the body, and it's a function of speed. The faster you go through a fluid, the greater the frictional force will get. And so it will impede your forward motion more, which means that you have to apply more forward force in order to get a higher speed. And the last drag force is wave drag. And so you can kind of think of that as a bow wave on the surface. It's due to the wave surface, wave motion, and there's an interaction between the body and the wave of the swimmer, which impedes their forward motion. And it's kind of like a bow wave. If you're a boater, you know it takes a little extra to get over top of that bow wave to plane your boat out. If you're a swimmer, you never can get over that bow wave. You're always pushing it out in front of you.
So, as Rich said with swimming, one of the things we're really looking at is that balance between forward velocity and the drag forces. And as he mentioned, the faster we go, the greater the drag forces come into play. Well, in terms of human movement, our speed is often a function of our rate and our length. So, for walking and running, for example, it's the rate of your strides versus the length of your strides. Now we know with running, if we get too long of a stride length, we become problematic because we start to slow ourselves down. So rate typically is a function that we want to go faster. With swimming, we don't have the same hindrance because we're not hitting the ground. So the longer our stroke length, the faster we can go. Now again, the faster we go, the more drag force comes into play. And the problem is, as we get tired, this begins to deteriorate. So our length starts to get shorter, even if our rate stays up and we tend to slow down, we don't move as fast. So when we're getting tired, if we can try and maintain the length of that stroke as you're reaching out, you're going to be able to increase that forward force that Rich had mentioned, and allows us to maintain our speed going through the water. Now a second factor, again, is that streamline position. The more we can stay flat on the water, or near the surface of the water, the more we're going to reduce the drag forces, especially form drag, or as Rich called it, pressure drag. Okay? So the more streamlined we can maintain, the easier it's going to be to move through the water. And that streamlined position can really be a function of your core strength. Okay? When you're strong in your core, It allows you to maintain that body position, just like if you're doing a plank exercise or a push-up. That good core strength maintains that body position. When you have weak core strength, your legs are going to start to dip a little bit, and that's going to increase your form drag. In addition, that stronger core, that stronger body position, as I'm motioning to the invisible person, will allow you to maintain a stronger base for your legs propelling your body forward. Okay, so it's not just your arms, but it's also your legs, and obviously that can vary based on the stroke you're doing. The last component that we tend to look at is breathing. Okay, we can all get in the water, we can all start to swim, but what a lot of us have trouble with is that breathing rate. Okay, is getting that oxygen in and that carbon dioxide out. Now when we're in the air, we're in running, whatever, no problem. We can breathe in, we can breathe out without a problem. But when we get into the water, obviously the water gives us a hindrance. So we want to breathe in, but as we turn our head into the water, we really need to work on getting the carbon dioxide back out, because it's that buildup of carbon dioxide that leads us to that drive to breathe that we want to do. So putting that all together into a good, nice streamlined form with a good stroke can make you be a better swimmer.